You were about to do one simple thing, and your brain deleted it again. You stood up with purpose, walked across the room, then hit blank air. Not distracted for a second, but completely disconnected from the task. The thought was there a moment ago, alive, clear, almost urgent enough. Then something tiny pulled your attention sideways, and it quietly vanished. Now you are standing there like your own mind changed the locks on you. So you retrace your steps, hoping the movement brings the memory back. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it just makes the whole thing feel worse. Because this is never only about forgetting one harmless little task. It is about wondering why your mind keeps dropping what mattered to you. The strange part is that people who forget tasks easily are rarely people who do not care at all. In fact, many of them care so much that their mind is crowded before the day even begins. They are not empty-headed people drifting through life without effort or concern or intention. They are often carrying too many small responsibilities at the exact same time. And when the mind is overloaded, even simple tasks stop feeling simple for very long. A task can enter the brain clearly, then get buried under 5 newer demands within seconds. Reply to that message, grab that charger, send that file, check that bill, call that person. Nothing sounds impossible on its own, which is exactly why the pattern feels so embarrassing. Because from the outside, it looks like you forgot something easy that should have stayed. But inside your head, that task was competing with a whole traffic jam of mental noise. This is why forgetting tasks often feels less like laziness and more like internal fragmentation. Your attention keeps getting split before the intention has time to fully settle anywhere. The task was never useless to you. It just never got a stable place to land. And that difference matters more than most people realize when they judge themselves for it. Because the real issue is often not effort, but how easily intention gets interrupted. To understand this, you have to see how fragile a task really is inside the mind. Most tasks are born as quick intentions, not deep memories with weight or emotional texture. You tell yourself you will do something later, and that promise feels solid for a moment. But a future task is not stored the same way a dramatic event or strong feeling is. It has no story, no image, no urgency strong enough to defend itself for very long. It often exists as a thin mental note floating through a busy and crowded system. Then the next distraction arrives, and that weak intention gets pushed quietly out of view. A sound, a message, a thought, another problem, and the original task starts fading fast. Not because it was meaningless, but because it was never anchored strongly enough to survive. The brain is constantly choosing what deserves space, and plain intentions often lose that fight, especially when they arrive in the middle of stress, noise, urgency, or shifting attention. That is why forgetting a task can happen even seconds after you meant to remember it. The intention was real, but it was too light to hold its place against everything else. And once it slips below awareness, it can feel like it was never there at all. What failed was not your character, but the stability of the mental encoding itself. Psychologists call part of this perspective memory, the ability to remember what must happen later. And that kind of memory is different from remembering something that already happened to you. It is not about retrieving the past, but protecting an intention before the moment arrives. You are asking the brain to carry a future action through noise, delay, and distraction. That is much harder than people think, especially in fast and overstimulated daily life. A future task has to survive time, context changes, interruptions, and emotional competition. It must remain available even while your attention gets borrowed by 10 other things. And the brain does not store every future intention with equal strength or protection. It favors what feels urgent, visible, emotional, repeated, or linked to strong meaning. A plain task, like send that email later, often has none of those advantages at all. So it stays weak, easy to interrupt, easy to lose, easy to misplace in the mind. This is why forgetting tasks is often not random, even when it feels random from inside. There is usually a pattern underneath it, a system getting overloaded before recall can happen. The task did not disappear by magic. It was outcompeted before the cue ever returned. And once you understand that, the forgetfulness starts looking less personal and more structural. What makes this more personal is that many task forgetters are rarely mentally quiet for very long. While one intention is forming, 3 other concerns are already moving across the same space. They may look calm from the outside, but inside there is constant cognitive cross-traffic. A bill, a reply, a deadline, a conversation, a fear, a plan for later tonight. The mind keeps rotating between unfinished loops before any one task gets fully secured. So the problem is not always poor memory in the classic sense people assume. It is often preoccupation, a mind repeatedly hijacked by whatever feels loudest next. And loud does not always mean important. It just means emotionally or mentally immediate. That is why tiny interruptions can derail tasks that genuinely mattered only seconds earlier. The task was present, but something else entered with more urgency and stole the stage. Over time, this creates a frustrating pattern of broken intention and private self-distrust. You start wondering how something so small keeps escaping a mind trying this hard. But effort alone cannot protect a task in a system flooded by constant inner noise. The more mentally crowded you are, the easier it becomes for intention to dissolve early. And that is why forgetting tasks often reveals overload long before it reveals indifference. People who forget tasks easily are not always people who notice too little about the world. Sometimes they notice too much, and their attention stays open to every passing signal. Their mind may be highly associative, reactive, curious, porous, and constantly reordering itself. They catch moods, patterns, possibilities, fragments, and details that other people miss. But that same openness can make plain instructions harder to hold in one fixed place. A task like send that form or buy that item is dry and easy to dislodge. It does not always carry enough emotion or meaning to stay protected in awareness. So the mind reaches for what feels alive, immediate, interesting, or psychologically charged. This does not make the person incapable, lazy, or unserious about their responsibilities. It means their attention is often organized by salience rather than by clean sequence. That can create real problems, but it also reveals a certain architecture of mind. Some people remember life as pressure points, feelings, images, and shifting connections. They are often better at sensing the texture of things than preserving dry intention. So the weakness is real, but it may sit beside a different kind of mental richness. And that is a more honest description than simply calling them forgetful and leaving it there. None of this means the pattern cannot improve, because intention gets stronger when it gains structure. A task survives better when it is written, spoken, linked to a cue, or made visible fast. The brain often needs help turning a vague later into something concrete enough to catch. That is not weakness, it is strategy, a way of building support where memory runs thin. The goal is not to become perfect, but to stop relying on fragile mental promises alone. Because forgetting a task does not always mean you did not care enough to do it. Sometimes it means the intention had nowhere solid to land before life pulled you away. And once you understand that, the shame starts losing some of its old authority. You are not broken. Your mind just needs stronger anchors than you were taught to build. If this psychology speaks to you, subscribe for more videos that make people feel understood.